Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we have some good racing tomorrow at Ayr. There's some good racing at Newbury, Newmarket, Chester. There's races that I'm interested in. We've actually got quite a lot tomorrow. So we're going to dive in and talk about them all. This video might be a little bit longer than normal, and I think my videos sometimes get up to half an hour anyway. So I will put chapters down for each of the races, so that you can have a look at certain races if you're only interested in races at Newbury or Chester or Ayr, for example. So let's go through our selections, starting off in the 115 at Ayr. Revich. Form figures of 000. Wow, look at that. The last time he won a race was at Ayr, over a mile, in this race last year. So because he's dropped a long, he's had a poor run since then, he's actually dropped from a mark of 95 down to what he runs off tomorrow, which is 88. Personally, I think if he doesn't do anything tomorrow, that could be it for Revich. They might as well retire him. He's not been showing a huge amount. He's been quite well beaten. But if he's going to bounce back, it's probably going to be here at Ayr. You can see that he won back here. I think he's also got a third to his name off 95. He ran a couple of days before that off 95 and got beat over a mile and 2. But over a mile, he's also got a win to his name off 92. This is all at Ayr. His form at Ayr is very good. If he's going to do it anywhere, it's going to be here. We can see that he's 2 from 4 or 3 from 4 for places. If he's going to do it anywhere, it's going to be here. And he's like last chance saloon sort of thing for me. That is Revich, and I've highlighted this race a little while ago, so I can't not back him now in this race. He's currently available at 8, which I think is fair enough. What did he actually go off for this race last year? Let's just have a look. He went off, I'm looking on my other screen now. He went off 9-2 favourite? No, 9-2 third favourite for this last year, off 95. He's going off 8-1, so a bigger price, off a £7 lower mark. I think that price is justified in terms of, I think that's a fair price about him. So Revich is my first selection. The one I really don't want to win tomorrow is Mr. King. That will frustrate me. I think they want a mile and 1 for that horse. A mile might just be on the sharp side for him. So first selection is Revich at 8-1. Moving on to the 150 at Ayr. We can see who I like in this race. I've got them highlighted. That is Phantom Flight. Now, Phantom Flight finished second last time out, behind See the Fire. For me, See the Fire is a Group 1 horse. See the Fire had been running in really good races, finished second behind Opera Singer, 4th behind City of Troy in a Coral Eclipse, 5th behind Porta Fortuna at Ascot. Obviously, I believe that Porta Fortuna is the best miler filly around. That form was really strong from See the Fire. So we were on See the Fire at York, one for us. So then you have to look at the horses in behind and who were the dangers, or who got the closest in behind, and that was Phantom Flight. And to be fair to Phantom Flight, he's been running pretty well in most of his races. Was third in a Group 3 behind Al Arce and Relentless Voyage. Interesting fact about Phantom Flight versus Al Arce. Before the last run at York that Phantom Flight ran in, the third, first, fifth and second all featured Al Arce. Al Arce won at Newbury, won at Haydock, lost at Newbury to our selection Phantom Flight, and then won at Goodwood. So Al Arce versus Phantom Flight is actually 3-1 in favour of Al Arce. But in Al Arce's kind of defence sort of thing, Al Arce I think is a really good horse. He's rated 113, has won his last 2 now, beating Al Kareem last time out. Had previously finished second in a Group 3 behind Adelaide River, had won a Group 3 at Haydock, had won a listed race. I kind of feel that Al Arce's better than Group 3 class. I think Al Arce is probably a Group 2 horse. So for Phantom Flight to have beaten Al Arce at least once, I think that was a very good effort. This is only a listed race. Over the mile and 2, probably Phantom Flight's best 2 runs have come over a mile and 2, beating our RC and then second to See the Fire. I don't have any negatives really about Phantom Flight over this trip. Whereas Enfajar had been winning handicaps and has since been beaten in, got beat at Goodwood in a handicap, and then was behind our selection Phantom Flight at York. I don't totally see why that horse could reverse the form. They were off levels that day. Phantom Flight is £3 worse off, but I think Phantom Flight comfortably beat Enfajar that day. And things didn't quite go to plan for Phantom Flight either. Persica, Caviar Heights, they're 3-year-old. Sons and Lovers, 3-year-old. Yeah, I just don't get a lot of the others. I think it's between Phantom Flight and Caviar Heights, not Enfajar. And I'm quite happy with the price that they've opened, or they've priced up Phantom Flight. If we have a look, a little bit weak, out to 3s, comfortably available at 11 to 4. I think it should be shorter than that. I think it's better than Enfajar. I think Persica's just a top class handicapper. Sabuska won for us last time, obviously, but that was in a handicap. Caviar Heights is the danger, but I don't think is group class, and I think Phantom Flight is. So my selection here at 11 to 4 is Phantom Flight. Moving on to the 205 at Newbury, we're sticking with one of our selections that we've done a couple of times now. That is Knightswood. I still believe Knightswood would have won at Goodwood over a mile and 6 if he'd got a clear run. He didn't. Finished 5th in a good race. Align the Stars, Fairbanks, Great Bedouin, Yukon Glen. Then went to York and ran okay, probably over too far, and maybe at a track that the Johnstons are worth avoiding. And then ran a good race at Haydock when it didn't quite work. Last time out behind Epic Poet, Waxing Gibbous and Dancing in Paris. Now, we've got Sylvester on tomorrow. I think that's a real positive. I really like Sylvester de Souza as a jockey. I think he's quality. He's going to give Knightswood one of the strongest rides you'll see, I'm sure. I think he's one of the strongest jockeys around, Sylvester de Souza. And I'm a lot happier with him on than Joe Fanning for sure. And if that just gets us a little bit closer, doesn't have a huge amount to find, dropped £1 for that 4th placed effort. If things go right, I think Knightswood can go really close here. And I'm really hopeful of a big run. Let's have a look. At a bigger price than what I think he should be. You can see that he's currently available at 14s. Well, last time out he went off 8 to 1. Waxing Gibbous, who ended up finishing second, won a 5 to 1. So there wasn't a lot between them. Waxing Gibbous is now 7 to 2. And Knightswood is 14s. I think they've got that wrong. I think I would have them pretty much the same prices as what they were last time. And yeah, because of that, I think Knightswood is a bet here at 14s under the super strong Sylvester de Souza. So he's my selection in the 205 at Newbury. Moving on to the 210 at Newmarket, and we've got one of our selections, previous selections here in Schmozzle. Now, I didn't like Schmozzle last time out. Well, I backed it. I backed her, but I didn't like the way she was ridden. I thought she was ridden very suspect. Eddie Greatrex went to the front, was travelling nicely, and for some reason came down the centre of the track. Far side had been the place to be all week, and yet decided to come down the centre of the track on his own pretty much, and almost opened the door for Our Nude, the other Rafe Beckett horse, which I kind of feel was the plan. I think the plan was to try and get Our Nude a lovely toe through the race and to drop away and almost have been a pacemaker. Well, Rafe Beckett's not got another horse in this race this time. The horse is dropping in trip and dropping in class, back to a class 4 or down to a class 4. Was winning a class 3 2 runs ago, now down to a class 4. I think this is where they're now going to try and win their own race. If he can get to the front, if Hector Crouch can get to the front, I think he's going to go really close in. He obviously rode Schmozzle when winning, beating Whisper at Lingfield. but didn't ride at York. Eddie Greatrex took over at York because Hector was on Our Nude, the first string of Rafe Beckett's. Now back on the first string of Rafe Beckett's, I think Shamuzzle is going to run a big race here. There aren't any prices currently, so I've had to look at the forecast prices. It's just load up the 210, see if they have got any yet. They haven't. So I've had to look at the forecast prices. Now, the forecast for this one is 12 to 1. I think that's a big price. Yeah, I think that's a big price about Shamuzzle. 2 runs ago, when winning in a Class 3, only went off 9 to 2. Even last time out in a Class 2, went off 12 to 1. So if we went off 14 to 1, sorry. So if we can get anywhere near 12s, I think that's a massive price about Shamuzzle. Anything at, I think, 7s or above sort of thing is a really good price about Shamuzzle tomorrow in a much easier race than what she has been in, particularly last time out, which I think was just a deeper race than what she's running in here. So yeah, Shamuzzle at Newmarket in the 210. Moving on, Ayr Silver Cup. I am going to stick with him for one more time. Some again. Rated 89. We know that he's well handicapped. We know that he just needs a clear run. This is a Class 2 by name. It's the Ayr Silver Cup. This is for horses rated 93. Let me just have a look. What's the lowest rated horse in this? 79. For me, that's Class 3. It's not a Class 2. In Class 3s, well, the horses only actually had the one go in Class 3s. It was a 7, wasn't it? It was a 9-runner affair. Finished third. Went off the 15 to 8 favourite. Ran off 91. So, reasons this will suit more. First of all, bigger field. Definitely what Summergan wants. The form of that race actually worked out quite well. Jahanga, Manila Scouts, First Folio came out and won yesterday. Bigger field, definitely Summergan wants. Danny Tartope, is happy to ride again. Drawn in 12, so right in the middle, so can pick where he goes. Down a couple of pounds from that run. He was rated 91 when third at Thirsk in that Class 3, down to 89. There's plenty to like about him, and to be fair, he's got some good form at Ayr. He disappointed in the Ayr Gold Cup last year, but the year before he did actually win it off 102. He won the Ayr Gold Cup off 102. He runs in the Silver Cup off 89. This is his last chance. But he's at a price that I'm happy to back him at. Let's just load it up. 225. We are going to have to go to our other one in a minute because they're going to go, oh, you've had too many looks at odds. Yes, there are odds. Don't give me that rubbish. I've just looked at them. Let's try reloading that page. Well, I can tell you he's currently available at 8 to 1. You can get that in William Hill, Bet365. Obviously, we don't really count that one. But 15 to 2 is readily available about Summergan. And he is the one that I'm quite happy to have a go on in the Silver Cup. Moving on to the 240 at Newbury. I told you there was going to be a few tomorrow. Who do I like here? It's Involvement. Now, Involvement actually reopposes Flying Frontier, who beat Involvement and beat our selection, Bal Makara. I think it was pronounced, last time out at Sandown. For me, though, Bal Makara, Involvement and Dam Buster just took each other on at the front. Flying Frontier was able to pick them up late and do them on the line because they'd gone slightly too hard up front. And with that in mind, I think we might see a slightly more reserved ride from William Buick. Hopefully he doesn't get pestered towards the front. I'm hoping he can sit in second or third. And they don't go quite as hard at the front. If they don't, I think Involvement is the one to beat in this race. He went off the 13 to 8 favourite last time out. Bal Makara went off 3s, who we liked. Flying Frontier went off 11 to 2. Obviously, Bal Makara's not running, so we don't need to worry about that one. They're running off the same weights, as in they both went up £2. Involvement went up 1. Flying Frontier went up 3. But because of the way the handicap works, they're actually running off the same levels here in terms of Flying Frontier is getting £2 from Involvement. He was getting £2 last time out. I don't see any reason to take on Involvement. I think the form will be reversed. There was only 2 necks between them last time. I think the form will be reversed. I think William Buick is going to wait a little bit longer this time and can reverse that form with Flying Frontier. So let's just load up the prices, make sure they are what I'm seeing on my other screen as well. 240 they are indeed. Involvement is available at 5s. I think Involvement goes off favourite, not Flying Frontier. And I think Involvement's the one to beat. Moving on to the 335, the Ayr Gold Cup. The 2 I like in this race are actually down near the bottom, only because they're in alphabetical order. The first one is Rohan, who I actually think ran a huge race in this race last year. And I think he got beat last year due to the draw. Finished 7th, came down the near side. I was really interested in both he and Al Bashir if they were both running in this race. Al Bashir is not, but Rohan is. He was running off 104 that day. He's down to 96 now. And I think he bumped into 2 nicely handicapped horses in Fresh and Takarib Bay last time out at Ascot. I think it was a perfectly respectable run from Rohan. And I think Tom Queally gave up when he realised that he couldn't catch those 2 right down the inside, Fresh and Takarib Bay. He just allowed the horse to come home in his own time, like we've got him ready for the Ayr Gold Cup. So Rohan is definitely one of my selections tomorrow for this race. I've highlighted him a few times for this race when I've seen his mark coming down in our handicap analysis videos. The second horse is one of ours eye catchers from last week, Strike Red. Went over to Ireland, went to the Curragh, finished 9th of 25 in the Bold Lad Sprint. Didn't get, was in the wrong side of the track. Drawn over the far side, never able to really get involved because he was in the wrong place. But if we take his previous run, that's the kind of bit of form that I really want to take note of. He was second behind El Monjed, and I think that's really good form. El Monjed was rapidly progressing, had won at Windsor, then went to York, won again at York. Strike Red ran a huge race off a mark of 93. Runs again in the UK of 93. Unless there is one of these ridiculously well handicapped horses in this race, which there could be in the likes of Rohan or American Affair, who could be a group horse next year. Other than that, I don't really think there's an El Monjed in this race. As I said, there's 2 well handicapped horses, Rohan and the favourite American Dancer. But I think Strike Red's going to give a really good showing tomorrow. He's drawn 6 and Rohan's drawn 8. So they're not as far out on the wings this time. I think they're in good positions and I'm hoping that they can run really nice races. Both of them can tuck in sort of thing. Strike Red probably a bit more prominent than Rohan. Rohan can be at the back, but hopefully doesn't end up on the wrong side of the track this year. So they are my 2 in the Ayr Gold Cup. Let's load up the odds. Are we going to get this? You've looked at too many. Not yet. They are available at... Rohan is now available at 11s. And Strike Red is a long way down. He's available at 20s. Considering he went off 7s last week for the feature handicap in Ireland, to go off 20s I think is a mental price, to be honest. And I think he's going to run a really nice race as well. So they're my 2 in the Ayr Gold Cup. We're doing something that I don't often do. I did it a couple of times last week or the week before and actually got it right in a way. We had 1st and 3rd in both races. In smaller races, I'm going to be backing 2 because I cannot split them. But I'm pretty confident that one of them is going to win. And if we can get, anything above 3-1 sort of thing about the pair of them, or, 3-1 and 3-1, you're making a profit on the race if you get one of them to win. They are Copper Knight and Vintage Clarets. Let's start with Copper Knight. Back to 77, handicap mark. Back to Chester, in a Class 3. Last time it ran in a Class 3 at Chester, off 77. It went off the 4-1 favourite and it won, beating Dicky Bird by a length and 3/4. Won really comfortably. Prominently ridden, drawn in 1, can jump out and hopefully hold on. with that in mind, because he's drawn in 1, I think he's going to go forward and set quite a strong pace. The other horse that's going to be almost suited by this is the horse who's not well drawn at all. That's Vintage Clarets. Now, Vintage Clarets, last time he ran here, finished 3rd behind Democracy Dilemma and Copper Knight. So, Copper Knight was running off 75 that day. He's running off 77. Vintage Clarets was running off 95. He's only running off 88. So he's £7 lower. Copper Knight's £2 higher. So there's actually a £9 swing there. So if you like Copper Knight, you've got to be liking Vintage Clarets on that running. And Democracy Dilemma has obviously done well since. He's come out and won at Beverley, winning the Beverley Bullet Sprint Stakes. So it was, it was a really good race, that race at Chester. So I think the pair of them are going to go close again. We've actually got Roman Dragon and Knight on Earth back in this race as well. They both reoppose. Knight on Earth off a £3 higher mark. Roman Dragon off a £5 lower. But I don't think Roman Dragon is one of our dangers. And Vintage Clarets has also won at the course. So although he finished 3rd there, you could say, yeah, but he only managed 3rd. The time before that, he won off 87, beating Lee Hu when coming from a long way back to run on and win the race, finishing strongly. That came off 87, he runs off 88, so he's off about the right mark that he's going to go close off at Chester, hopefully, and could have the race run to suit with Copper Knight also in the race. But I do believe one of those two will win the race. So I then, looked at what's the forecast odds for them. Vintage Clarets, 7s, Copper Knight, 8s. I think that would be absolutely fine. If we get both of those prices, I'd be very happy and very confident of 2 big runs here from Copper Knight and Vintage Clarets. Moving on to the 4:45 at Chester. Who do I like here? It is Small Fry for Gary and Josh Moore and Franny Norton. Now, this is actually Franny Norton's final race meeting at Chester, which is obviously great for him. And I think this is one of those that he's been booked on because it's his final meeting. He's on the very progressive and unexposed Small Fry for Gary and Josh Moore. 3 runs ago, this horse stepped up from 1 mile and 2 up to 1 mile and 5 and won at Lingfield, beating Stand Back and Look, and won going away. Then went to Wolverhampton on the all-weather, and this time got beat by Stand Back and Look. Stand Back and Look. I don't know why I said away. It doesn't have the word away in it. Stand Back and Look, but still finished 2nd, beating the Mark Prescott Miss Gitana. I thought that was a good effort, and then returned to Epsom on the turf on soft ground and won comfortably, beating Bitter Lemon comfortably at Epsom on soft ground. It's not soft ground tomorrow, it's good to soft, but he's only £5 higher from when very comfortably winning at Epsom over 1 mile and 4. I think the trip will really suit back up to 1 mile and 6, and I think he's one of these that is just a bit ahead of his mark over these marathon trips, and that's why Franny Norton's been booked. It's like, we can send you off with a winner. We've got a really nicely handicapped horse here. So that's Small Fry. Again, no current prices. Looked at the forecast prices. Small Fry was was supposedly going to be 5-1. I'd be very happy with that. I'm hoping Dreams a Dozen becomes favourite because he does run well here. Dreams a Dozen, she's regularly in the frame. She ran a really good race last time out when beaten by... Who was she beaten by last time? Have You Missed Me? The time before that behind the very good Spirit Mixer. So hopefully Dreams a Dozen actually goes off favourite. And that means we get a bit of a better price about Small Fry, who I think is just one of these very, very well handicapped horses. Moving on to the 5 o'clock. This is going to be a bit of a punt, and you could see who it was on. I'm just going to load up the prices, see if they've priced up yet. They have, but let's just switch to here. 5 o'clock. Oh, they haven't yet. Oh, here we go. They have 25-1. Have what Bet365 have just priced up. If we can get 25s about Accidental Agent, I'm going to have a bet on him at 25-1. Now, why on earth would I be backing a horse who's got absolutely woeful form, hasn't won in ages? I agree. He looks badly out of form. He could just be at the end of his career. But he's back to Newbury. And I think that could be really key here. Actually ran okay 2 runs ago at Newbury, when finishing 8th of 11, but only beaten 2.5 lengths. With another half a furlong, would have probably got into the places, and if it had been over a mile, I think Accidental Agent would have won. The horse is just ridiculously slowly away at the moment, but is dropping in the handicap. That was off 92, is now down to 89. It's all about, I think the big field could mean they go quick enough at the front here that although he's going to be badly outpaced early, I'm hoping he's going to be absolutely flying home at the finish. And to be fair, his Newbury form is probably some of the best form he's got. He finished 4th in a handicap off 107. He's running off 89, and Mia takes 5 off, so he's running off essentially 84. So that would be £23 lower mark than when finishing 4th in a handicap. He's also been here and finished 3rd in a Lockinge behind Mustachery. He's finished 6th in a Lockinge behind Rhododendron. 2nd in a listed race behind Tabarak. And so there his runs at Newbury. 2nd in a listed race, 6th in a Group 1, 3rd in the Group 1, 4th in a handicap off 107 mark, and then last time he ran at the track, he was 8th of 11, but only beaten 2 lengths off 92. I'm just hoping they go quick enough at the front, and Mia can go, just keep riding. If Mia rides this race like I've got to go flat out the whole way, watch how fast Accidental Agent is finishing. It'll be the quickest out of most of his rivals, I think. And yeah, I'm hoping for a good run here from Accidental Agent at a massive price, as you can see. Currently available at Bet365. This is at 25 to 1. If we can get 25s, I'd be very happy with that. If we can get 33s, I'd be delighted. Moving on to the 5.15. Whoops, I've skipped one. I don't know if that's just you see my page doing that, or whether this is just my window. Moving on to the 5.15 and going for another old boy. So we go from one old boy in Accidental Agent to another one, this one even older, in Yukon Glen. Yukon Glen at Ayr, over 1.5 miles. That's why I like him. The last time he ran over the strip, he actually won off a mark of 88, runs off 91. Okay, he runs off 91, a little bit of a higher mark. I think he was always getting there and always doing enough at Ayr when he won back in June. But his form at Ayr is also very good, other than that, because we were on him that day. He'd finished 2nd off 96 in a good handicap over a trip that was too short. He'd finished 4th behind Kihava in a handicap over 1.5 miles in June of 2023. Now that's the interesting one for me. Pridwen was 2nd, who's obviously come out and won a decent race in abroad somewhere. I can't remember the country. But if we have a look, Yukon Glen was finishing 4th, not beaten that far by Kihava. Yukon Glen was giving £6 that day. Tomorrow we'll be getting £6. So there's a £12 swing for, I think it was about 2 and a bit lengths. Let's just have a look on my other screen. For 1 1/4 lengths, there's a £12 swing. If we went purely on that, Yukon Glen would reverse that form. Granted, he is older now. I don't think he's been running that badly either. Some of his runs have been good. He's 4th at Goodwood. He's just been bumping into really well handicapped, unexposed horses, in my opinion. The likes of Align the Stars, Shadow Dance at York, that was over a trip too short. And then last time at Haydock, behind some, younger horses. The fact that they've got Kievar as the favourite here, I think that's the wrong one. I wouldn't make Kievar favourite. If you do make Kievar favourite, you don't make Yukon Glen as big as they've initially opened up. And they've initially opened Yukon Glen at 14s. I would have him more of 7s then, if Kievar is the right favourite. And yeah, I think Yukon Glen can run a really big race here for Paul Mulrennan, who obviously, I think he rode a treble yesterday at Ayr. Hopefully he could end the festival with another winner. And finally, final selection is for another horse that I'm hoping can send off a jockey in good style, that is Franny Norton on Kitao at Chester. Why do I like Kitao? Well, the horse is running in a Class 4 race. Hasn't been in a Class 4 race in a while. I'm actually looking on my other screen. I don't know whether it's ever run in a Class 4 race, other than on debut when it was in a maiden. Novice stakes, sorry. It finished third 5 runs ago in a Class 3 race, over a mile and 2, of 82. Handicap has dropped him to 79. Didn't get the clearest of runs that day either. Yeah, I think he is nicely handicapped for Charlie Johnston. Drawn in 6, which is ideal because I want him to go relatively prominent. And his runs recently haven't been as bad as they've looked. His 7th of 12 at York, he was there for a long way, just was a bit too keen. In a better race than this, though. That's the key, I think, for this. This is definitely an easier race than what he has been running. It is, because it's a Class 4. He'd been running in Class 2s and 3s recently. When he was fourth, 2 runs ago in a Class 3, the Racing League. They're obviously really well attended races because there's good prize money. So you generally find they're a little bit better handicapped. And Kitao went off 3-1 favourite that day. Went off 3-1 over a mile and 2, in a Class 3. Surely he's got to go well tomorrow. So again, had to have a look. What forecast price are they going to go about Kitao? And they went, just reloading it on my screen. Forecast price of 13-2. It would not surprise me if this one got, if they opened him at 13-2, wouldn't surprise me if he got backed into favouritism. I think they're going to have done everything. Charlie Johnston, the Johnsons are going to have done everything they possibly can to put Franny in on a horse that is well handicapped, didn't get home last time out, back to the right trip, into a grade that it can win off. And if we can get anything around 13-2, I'll be happy with 3-1, to be honest, because I think he's got a huge chance tomorrow, Kitao. So they are all of my selections tomorrow. I've got quite a few, unfortunately, if you don't like too many bets. Revich in the first to Ayr, back to a race he won off a lower mark. Final chance for me. Phantom Flight, I think, can demonstrate that being beaten by See the Fire last time out was a very good run. Knightswood, I'm hoping Sylvester de Souza can be really strong. Maybe the horse needs a stronger jockey. Sylvester is one of the strongest around. Shamozzle, back to a Class 4. Rafe and Hector gets back on board, hoping that can go forward, make all the running, and actually be ridden to win the race this time, rather than trying to set it up for another horse. Summergan, given a final chance in the Silver Cup, is a previous winner of the Gold Cup. Involvement, I think, can reverse the form with Flying Frontier, as long as he doesn't go as hard this time. I think he took on Balmakara a little bit early last time, and that cost them both right at the death. Rohan is nicely handicapped for an unlucky 7th last year, just drawn on the wrong side. Strike Red was drawn on the wrong side last week. I'm hoping he can bounce back from that. Vintage Clarets and Copper Knight. Copper Knight's going to go forward at Chester. Vintage Clarets going to be weighted out the back. It's depending on who goes the right speed. If Sean gets it right on Copper Knight, gets his fractions right, I think he'll hang on. If he doesn't, Vintage Clarets will be the one finishing strongest of all. Small Fry, I think, is one of these very well handicapped progressive 3-year-olds that Franny's being booked to ride because it's his final meeting. Accidental Agent, if Mia can keep up early on, if we're close enough with, say, 2 furlongs to go, I think Accidental Agent's going to massively outrun his odds. Yukon Glen, at this track, over this trip, Paul Mulrennan riding, hopefully he can get another winner at Ayr. The horse, I think, should be a lot shorter price based on the Kievar's favourite. And finally, Kitao, I think, can send Franny Norton off with a winner over this trip. I think that's key, and into a Class 4.